Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have a great discussion today because it's all about that thing that all of us as business people need, getting clients, and more importantly, keeping them. Because we all know it is so much easier to keep a happy client than to start over and start over and start over. So please join me in welcoming Richard Weylman to our program today. Welcome, Richard. How are you?
I'm fine, Deb. Thanks so much for inviting me to be with you today. It's a real joy.
Perfect. We're going to have a great conversation. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this. So Richard Weylman has an amazing story. Orphaned at the age of 6. Excuse me, he lived in 19 foster homes and attended 11 different schools. Rather than becoming a victim of those circumstances, he overcame them and has had remarkable business success, including an award-winning general sales manager of Rolls Royce to heading sales and marketing for the Robb Report, a magazine for the luxury lifestyle, excuse me, from its inception until its record liquidity event. A Hall of Fame inducted keynote speaker, Richard has been inducted into the Customer Experience Hall of Fame. I got a frog in my throat. Such fun. He has been inducted into the Customer Experience Hall of Fame for his legendary work helping brands engage with their customers and retain them. He is the author of 2 international bestsellers, the latest of which, The Power of Why, Breaking Out in a Competitive Marketplace, is in 7 languages and is also a CEO Reads bestseller. His latest book, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life, is also a #1 bestseller. So Richard, give my voice a break and tell us a little bit how it is that you got to where you are today.
Well, thank you, Deb, and I appreciate that kind introduction. I've been very fortunate. Well, I was orphaned. My mother died when I was 5, my dad died when I was 6, and I lived in lots of foster homes. But it was really good training for me, though, because my first sales job, I was working at a place called What a Burger in Florida, and I was flipping burgers. I was a grill master. And I saw an ad in the paper that said make $2,000 a week part-time. I thought, wow. So I shot down there to get interviewed, and this guy was working out of a storefront. And I said, well, what do you do here? He said, we sell cookware. I said, wow. He said, yeah, you can make $2,000 a week. He said, all you do is you go to a house in any street, any town, anywhere, you knock on the door, people run to the door in anticipation, hoping that it's you. He said, then you just hand them the cookware, pick up the check, and come back here and get another set. I said, so this is like a delivery service? He said, exactly like a delivery service. I was like, wow, no wonder you can make $2,000 a week. So what's it take to get started? He said, well, give me a check for $79 and the sales kit is yours and just go sell it. I found out later that's how he was making $2,000 a week, but that's a different topic. My first sales call, anyway, I knocked on the door. This guy came to the door, no shirt on, a lot of body hair. It was in the middle of the summer, scary looking. And I said, I'm here to deliver your cookware. All I need is a check. And he turned around and yelled, Martha, did you order any cookware? She said, no. He said, turn that dog loose. Anyhow, I got bit on my right arm, my first sales call. That was my introduction.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. But anyhow, that was the genesis. And but I went on, I sold cookware, encyclopedia, cemetery plots, family Bibles, a lot of different things, and deco rugs with dust mops, door to door, et cetera. So I had a lot of opportunity to learn and interface with people. But that really brought me on this journey. And after we had the liquidity event with the Robb Report, people began to call me and ask me to speak about how in the world do you market a magazine nobody ever heard of and turn it into #1 in the space in 4 years. So I spoke at a conference, and I had over 22 CEOs came up to me at the end, said, you've got to work with us and help us get our branding right. So that really began the journey. And Now, over these last 25 years, I built a consulting firm, and of course, I speak all over the world at conferences to really help entrepreneurs, business owners, really not only elevate their business performance, but even as the title of my new book says, to really help them acquire and keep clients for life. There's been a massive shift in consumer behavior. It started before the pandemic. I will say that as a research-based consulting firm, we saw it before the pandemic, and I told my team, I said, people are no longer just focused on good service. They're no longer focused on a good product. That's an expectation. It's minimum. What they're looking for is a great experience. And if they have one bad experience, they will either not close the sale or they'll abandon you as a provider. And of course, the research is, I mean, you don't want to be right when you say things like that every
Right.
time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just throw that out casually, but we were very fortunate and be able to help some NFL teams, many banks, et cetera, all over the world, financial services firms, fast food restaurant. One of our clients just won the National Restaurant Award, best fast casual in the country, beat everybody. And the number one reason was because their customers go back, 62% of them go back every week and reorder because of the experience they have. So there's a little background for you if that's helpful.
I love that. And you are truly the epitome of a door-to-door salesman, right? I didn't hear a Hoover vacuum in there, though. I think that was the one thing.
Didn't get into vacuum cleaners, no.
But, that is probably without a doubt one of the hardest things to do is a true cold sales call. And the fact that you were very successful at it shows just how good you were, because it's pretty easy to slam the door in somebody's face or send the dog out after them.
Well, I think, that's a good point. I think there's several things in there. I mean, I never had call reluctance. I mean, the one thing this guy did say when I had my very first, he said, now the disadvantage of this job, so in Cooper, you're going to spend time in strangers' houses. I'm like, I've been living with them my whole life.
That was that. You were just foster home to foster home to foster home.
I didn't have that sense of like, this is going to be some kind of an issue.
Right.
I mean, I had my egg cart. I still have the egg crate, by the way, that when I was a kid. I had all this stuff in one egg crate. I could be in and out in minutes. But I think what it really got down to, and I didn't realize this early on, but as I began my consulting, began to speak, and we built a Robb Report up, and I built the third largest Rolls Royce dealership network in the United States. What people began to say is, Richard, you somehow just see it from our point of view. And, I think initially I was like, yeah, okay, it sounds like psychobabble. I began to realize that that really is the gift that I have, is that, I mean, companies will hire me and I come in and I got one right now, they spent $6 million on a sales program. They can't figure out why it's working. It's not.
Their shorts are getting tighter and tighter.
I mean, they were like freaked out. The CEO calls me, we can't figure out what's wrong with this thing, et cetera. And then we spent $6 million. And so anyway, I flew up there and I was there about a half an hour and asked him a bunch of questions. I said, well, here's the issue. Ding, ding, and ding. And he looked at me and he was like, who thinks like that? I said, the people with whom you do business.
Right.
And you have their input. So as a result of that, the net result was the program, not only did they fix the program, they had a record year in terms of sales. So, but it's not to digress, but it really, all of this background or experience, however you want to call it, I mean, we all have a story, right? And we could all tell a wonderful story. So that's my story. And the gift that I've been given is, it's called discernment. I don't know why I can see it. I mean, I've sat in boardrooms with powerful executives from all over the world, some of the brightest minds. I'll be on an issue and I'll say, well, how about this?
Right.
And I don't know. It's not some intellect here. It's just.
Well, I mean, clearly you're not intimidated by them. And I think that's one of the things that happens is, whether it's the housewife or the CEO or whoever, we put them on a different level. And you said it so well before, we need to be on the same level. And we do need to put ourselves in their shoes. The CEO or the housewife doesn't want somebody just saying, yes, yes, Yes. Now you might, they do sometimes kind of act like that, right? But, they want people to say, maybe yes, but, or, hey, have you thought of this? And, and I think that's especially true with business leaders. They don't want yes men surrounding them. And again, they act like it. And there are certainly those who do, but they want people to put themselves in a different position. And I love that you said that you put yourself in the position of your potential customer. And that's so important because then you empathize with them.
Yeah, empathy is a very powerful. Covey wrote a lot about this. That when you demonstrate deep empathy, what it does, it reduces and removes the, shall we call, the defensiveness of the, we'll put it in sales, of the prospect, we'll say it that way. And as a result, they're open to creative solutions. And, you remind me of a board I was invited to a church, this large church. In fact, you're in the Atlanta area. And the Atlanta area was they had built bought several properties. They were in debt. They were trying to get it figured out, et cetera. So they got all the, deacons and elders, whatever they call it, together, 40 of them up at Stone Mountain, they're going to meeting and resolve this.
Oh, yes.
And the pastor called me. He was a friend of mine. He said, would you come and just sit in the meeting and make sure I'm on the right track? I said, sure, I'd be happy to do it, Paul. So I'm in. And a great presentation about how we're going to pay off debt and et cetera. And so then he said, what do you all think? And everybody's like, yes, so really makes it, man. So he said, now I've asked Richard Weylman to come. You all know Richard. And Richard, as a branding and marketing expert, he said, and you understand human behavior. What do you think of our plan?
And you said,
so the first thing is the plan will fail because people aren't going to give money to pay off somebody else's debt.
Right. Especially if they didn't think you should get in debt to start with.
Well, that's a good point as well. I said, so my question is, what if you have all the money in the world, what would you do? Oh, well, we'd open a school, we'd expand the sanctuary and build a parking deck, and it's like $5 million. So there was a guy there who's a builder, and I asked him, I said, what do you think this would cost? He said, 25 million probably. And they owed 11. And I said, so let's round it up to 30. Could we do that, ladies and gentlemen? And, everybody's like,
they're in shell shock.
I just looked at the pastor and I said, so what I would suggest you do is let's start a campaign called Let Us Rise Up and Build. Anyway, raised $30 million in 4 years, paid the whole thing. And the organization now is global, totally debt-free, but it all began with the idea that having an understanding of how people, in this particular case, how people give or how they interact with organizations. It's one of the things we see in charity groups all the time. And charity groups all the time, we need money for this, but people want to give to an outcome. So if you say, if you'll do this, we can, here's the key phrase, so that you'll give this so that we can buy this or accommodate that or help this family. That's why GoFundMe have done so incredibly well, is because it's always specific. It's a specific, let's call it a specific so that. As a result of that, people do it. So not that I'm, sitting here trying to tell you, everybody, we need to be giving to charities, but I'm just giving you an illustration of what happens when you want to do something that benefits only you. If you do something that benefits the outcome to the individual, to the person you're doing with, great. People say to me all the time, well, Richard, I need to improve my closing ratio. It's just a ridiculous comment because the way you improve your closing ratio is it's not about a closing ratio or be a better closer. You need to be a better relationship builder. Because if you build relationships, guess what? People then want to say, so what do you do? And instead of saying, well, I sell years and we sell, I sell automobiles, or I'm in a service business, or we're in a plumbing business, which means nothing. Or I'm in a real estate business. So what do you do? Well, I enjoy what I do because I help my clients get their plumbing problems solved in their homes quickly, or I help my clients, I get them cool on a hot day, or I help my clients get the car they can afford at the price that they can enjoy, or I can help them get the home of their dreams. So that's the reality today is people are focused on outcome. They want to know, what are you going to do on my behalf?
Yes.
The average person is not taught how to talk like that. because we're in love with our products.
Right. And why don't you want to buy it?
Well, we're in love with our products and our services. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
consumers in love with the outcome and the experience.
Right. Right.
There's the difference. That's why I wrote the book,
Mm-hmm.
100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients. What I began to interview people, and I said, "What does it take for someone to do business with you?" And people would say they love their product, but they give us a terrible experience.
Right.
Well, what should they do? Well, if they did this, I'd do business. I began to write them down, and that's how the book was the genesis of the book.
Well, and we were talking about this before the program started. It's again 100 proven ways to acquire and keep clients. These are easy, folks. This is not we're going to buy them a Rolls Royce, or we're going to this is say please, say thank you. A lot of things where, as it was funny, as I was reading it, I was thinking, oh yeah, or duh. And then of course, oh, but do I remember to do that? Or more importantly, ooh, eek, I don't. We're not saying you got to do 100 today, right?
Oh.
Bite off, things that you can chew, but talk about some, and so they really are in so many ways, very basic. I'm, one of the ones was, what do you tell somebody at the end of the sale? Now I live in Atlanta, the land of Chick-fil-A. Right. And so, and so of course, they're always one of my favorites. You go, you buy something somewhere and you might get thanks from the person, or, some grunt, right? Sometimes they don't even acknowledge, they snatch your money away, they hand you the receipt and they're on to the next person. At Chick-fil-A, it's their pleasure to serve you. And it's funny because I tease them every once in a while if they forget to say that. Or every once in a while I might say, is it? And, but in a way that they know, okay, we can joke back. But the important thing is, it is their pleasure to serve. It's not just, hey, let's say those words. It's no, it is our pleasure to serve you. And just that little flip. I could go across the street to McDonald's and they're going to grunt at me, or I can go to Chick-fil-A and it's their pleasure to serve me.
Well, you're right. Truett Cathy was a dear friend of mine. We did a lot together, traveled a lot, and had many, many, many conversations. He passed away a few years ago. And his son, Danny's chairman, and we now have a CEO. But the most important thing, and I'll never, every single time, Truett and I would be going to Chick-fil-A, he always had the cards he'd pass out free. Everybody loved to do that. But he would say to me, he said, Richard, now we need to go in and remind the staff we're not in the chicken business. We need to remind them we're in the people business.
Yes.
And that's exactly how we built that organization. And just to give Deb, to your point, please, thank you, and my pleasure. And they have the highest gross of any fast food chain in the world, and they're closed 52 days a year. Another way to say it is they closed November 11th and they opened January 1st.
Right.
Basically closed 52 days. They're beating everybody. Why? Please, thank you, and my pleasure. That's where we are as a society. If you as an individual business owner, entrepreneur, salesperson, marketing person, service person, listening to this today, believe you me, when you demonstrate 4 things that people are looking for, and it's the whole premise and genesis of the book, and these are not my words, these are when you interview hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, as we do in our branding exercises for companies, and we ask them, what does it take? Overwhelmingly 4 things. They want somebody that's thoughtful, that's willing to, shall we say, connect with them at a deep level.
Right.
At least somebody that cares enough to find out what they really want, as opposed to try to just sell them something. Thirdly, they want someone who really is kind in a nice way, that they go the extra mile, do the extra, whatever. If it's raining, they have an umbrella to take them to the car or whatever. And fourth, they want somebody, as Deb mentioned earlier, that's empathetic, somebody that is willing to sit on their side of the table and see things from their point of view. And the challenge is, when we're in sales, often we get people to come in and say, well, my situation is very different. Yet you've heard that same situation 100 times.
Right. Just a little twist.
But for that individual, that is, shall we say, unique to them. It's personal to them. If you personalize and humanize the interaction, you end up with a relationship that's unbreakable.
Right. And again, some of it really is simple and basic. Acknowledge them when they come in. It truly annoys me when I go into a store, and especially if it's now, some places are a little bit different, but say it's more like a boutique store or something,
Yeah.
and you walk in and the person behind the counter never looks up, never
Right.
says hi, never says anything. That annoys me. They can do it. Now, I do laugh when it's total rote. There's a fast food chain called Moe's, right? And when you walk in the door, like 9 of them scream, "Welcome to Moe's." That's a little much. But and then you've always got the person who wasn't paying attention, and then they have to, but so it has to be authentic. Back to, it is their pleasure to serve you. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Even if you don't buy anything, we're still glad you're here. Now, they're not going to say that part, but that's the feeling that people need to get.
Well, it's the how may I help you versus can I help you?
Right.
I mean, you live in Atlanta, you have a place there called the Varsity, great place for hot
Oh,
dogs.
yes. Was that Varsity several weeks ago?
Hot dogs and heartburn. But the important thing about Varsity when you go in, I mean, this place is wild and crazy. They got 10, 12, 15 people on the counter. It's
buying a hot dog.
hot dog, chopped onions over in the corner, and your eyes watering. And but what do they always say? They say, "What do you have?" So they always greet you in a kind and kindly way, but it's very authentic and genuine. I have an old Oxford dictionary. I spoke at Oxford a few years ago, and the professor there gave me an old Oxford dictionary written in 1827. And I was asked a question by one of the graduate students. How would they, today you have to be authentic. That was
that is one of the buzzwords.
How would you describe being authentic? And I said, well, let's not use my opinion. Let's look at Oxford's.
Yes. What did Oxford say?
I pulled out the dictionary and I looked up authentic, and it said, "See genuine."
Ah.
So I flipped over to genuine, and you know what it said? Not counterfeit. Thought it was brilliant. The place went crazy. All the students applauded. I was like, "There's your answer. Want to be authentic? Don't be counterfeit."
Well, and be yourself. I mean, that's the other thing, is we know when somebody is saying something because they were told to.
Right.
Following that script, right? I had a door-to-door salesman the other day, young woman. Now, it was one of those where I should not have gone to the door because I had started a Zoom call. The person hadn't joined yet, and the doorbell rang and knocked. And I'm thinking, okay, this sounds like it might be something I need. So, disconnect myself, leave Zoom on, go dashing downstairs. And this, sweet young girl starts off by saying, "Hello, ma'am, how are you?" And I said, "I'm terribly busy. What can I do for you?" Now, I was rude to her. I will fully admit that. And she ignores that. She says, "Well, do you know your neighbors?" I said, "Yes, I know my neighbors. I want to talk to you about their security system." And that one kind of threw me because I'm thinking, but actually she was trying to sell the same thing. And she said, "This will only take several minutes." And I said, "I am terribly sorry. I am on a call. I have got to get back to it." I said, "May I take your card? And I will call you." Now, was I going to call her? No. And of course, so she knew that. But she said, "Oh no, I can come back later today. When would be a good time?" I said, "Now is not a good time. Today is not good." And then she started to get belligerent. And so I shut the door and I locked it, and I turned around and I started to walk off. Now we have a big glass door. She came up the steps and yelled through the door at me. And I thought, "Oh, honey, that was not in your script." But, it was one of those where she did not read the room, right? When I said, "I am so sorry, I just don't have time," she should have said, "Thank you. Here's my information," even knowing I would turn around and throw it away. But, it was, she just, poor thing, it was hot, all these various things. But yeah, she did not know how to handle that.
Well, you make up a good point, Deb, that I address it deeply in the book. I ask people a lot about it. Let's say somebody, just to pivot off your point there, if somebody says they're not ready now, or it's a bad time, or we need to think about it. So how do you feel about it when somebody follows up with you after you told them that? They said, "We hate the fact that people say, 'I'm just following up.'" What they're really saying is, we have no more value we can add to the conversation. And what they don't realize, if we'd made a decision, we would have already called you.
Yeah, we were being polite. or maybe
So,
not quite polite. Mhm.
so I said to them, I said to all the people we interviewed, I said, so let's say you're looking at buying something, you decide you want to talk about it. The salesperson calls you a few days later and say they're following up. They said,
Mhm.
why do they do that?
Mhm.
Why don't they call? Now hear this. Why don't they call and say, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. Really appreciate you having come in the other day. I've identified a couple additional steps we can take
Yep.
so we can work together.
Mhm.
Why?
Provide more value.
Right, because why? Adults love steps.
Mhm.
I get it all the time. Well, people don't implement after there's a presentation. That's because we talk in big strategic
Mhm.
terms. My whole focus in all my speaking
Mhm.
all over the world, and regardless of whether it's 8 people like I had the other
Mhm.
day in Honolulu or 1,200 I have next Monday in San Diego,
Mhm.
I want to give them prescriptive
Mhm.
tactics,
Right.
what to do, and here's
Mhm.
exactly how to do
Mhm.
it. Not based on what I think,
Mhm.
but based on what your customer
Mhm.
base is saying.
Mhm.
If you will, may I give you a couple of examples?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so in other words, how are you signing your emails? Well,
Mhm.
most people say I sign it best. That's the number one
Hmm.
disliked signature line in the world.
I don't even know what it means.
That's what their comment was. Best for who?
Best
So then I
what?
said, well, how about sincerely yours? They said institutional and meaningless.
Mhm.
Sounds
We
like a
we
bank.
learned sincerely yours in elementary school.
Right. So I said, well, what's best? And then we ranked them. The top one, warm regards. Second one,
Mhm.
kind regards.
Mhm.
So how much does it cost to change your email to that?
Mhm.
It's like, what is their name?
Mhm.
Well, everybody said, well, their name, I have a friend in Atlanta, her name's Elizabeth, but don't call her Elizabeth. Why?
Mhm.
She goes by Lolly.
Lolly. So not Liz, not Beth, not. Mhm.
Not Elizabeth, nothing. It's Lolly. Why? Because she was a little girl. Her grandfather gave her lollipops and called her Lolly,
Oh.
and she's 88 years old.
Mhm.
It's still Lolly.
Mhm.
She's a big supporter of theater and other things. So again, it's like T, but my
Mhm.
first initial is C.
Mhm.
Charles, that was my dad's name. And so I never used to C period Richard. Okay. I get lots of emails, dear C.
Yep.
I
Mhm.
don't read those.
Mhm.
T. Boone Pickens was a friend of mine. He never went by
He
T.
was not T.
Right.
No, that's Mr. T, and that's a different person.
Right. That's a different person altogether. So my point is personalize and humanize the communication.
Mhm.
Don't be following up with people. Identify next step.
Mhm.
Sign your emails, warm regards or
Mhm.
kind regards, and connect with people. When they come into your office, don't say, would you like a beverage? Offer it proactively,
Mhm.
whether
Mhm.
it's a bottle of cold water, or whether it's
Mhm.
a coffee or whatever the case. People say, well, I want to, would you like it? Or a good example is, do you want me to pull your car around? Well, say, listen, I'm going to go pull your car around. Don't ask,
Mhm.
go do it.
Right.
Be proactive,
Mhm.
demonstrate
Mhm.
thoughtfulness, kindness, caring,
Mhm.
and empathy, and people will connect with you in a
Mhm.
deep way. I was at an office in Charlotte the other day, pouring rain. I mean, it was coming down in but,
Mhm.
and I spoke at a lunch meeting there.
Mhm.
I don't know, 50 people or whatever it was.
Mhm.
And so I'm sitting in the leadership's office, but getting ready to leave, and it's pouring down rain. And I said, boy, the parking is a challenge across the street in this rain. He said, yeah. He said, look at all the people coming out of the office holding their paperwork over
Mhm.
their head. And I said to him, wonder how many of those are your clients? And he looked at me
Ah.
like, oh my God. I said, yeah,
Mhm.
well, if you have umbrellas here in the lobby, give
Mhm.
them with your firm name on it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Get
and they
a
can keep it. Mhm.
thank you. And
Mhm.
he's like, I never would have thought of that. I
Mhm.
said, well, that's because you're focused on your business, not
Right.
focused on your customer.
Mhm.
It's the little things. It's never the big
Mhm.
things.
Right. Yeah. And like with the umbrella, then they're advertising for you the next time they
Thank
use the
you.
umbrella. Right. And it's couple bucks. I mean, this is not a major expense. But yeah, just a little bit. You mentioned in your book the beverages, and I love this concept. Because if they even offer them, it's the bottle of water and the Keurig coffee maker with the styrofoam cups. And your point, and I love this, get rid of all that. Have
Yeah.
glasses and mugs or china cups. You were mentioning that, the big workers that, they couldn't even use the china cups, but they thought it was great. You can, and I mean, you can have them branded, obviously, with your company, and then they get to take it home. Or, maybe you make it fun and you go to the antique store and you get, a whole bunch of different china pieces. I mean, all sorts of things. But it makes you feel special, right? When you get a glass or a paper cup, which one makes you feel just a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, look at Starbucks. They've spent
Mhm.
millions trying to make that cup feel like a little piece of
Right.
china on your
Oh,
lip.
and they have contests at,
Yeah,
Christmas. There's still a disposable cup, but it
yeah,
doesn't feel like a
feel like
disposable
it,
cup.
right? And you've spent trying to make that
Hmm.
feel like it's china on your lip.
Hmm.
It's fabulous. So,
Hmm.
I mean, to your point, and people say, well, we're in the plumbing business. We don't need china cups and saucers. Well, it's like my guy in Montana. He's not in the plumbing business, and his business is, he served everybody, and here's a bottle of water. And I told
Hmm.
him, you need to put in china cups and saucers. He's
Hmm.
like, you're out of your mind. My
Hmm.
clients are all ranchers. Well, he did. He bought a china cups and saucers at the outlet mall, four of them. Said I
Hmm.
spent
Hmm.
$100.
Because he wasn't going to waste his money.
Yeah, this was a real waste of money.
Hmm.
14 cups and saucers are ridiculous. Spent $100 at the outlet mall. And then a week later sends me an email. Oh my God, I have my best clients in here today. Now their thumbs would not go through those little
Right. Hmm.
hands. So they drank out of them like they're mugs, but they turned
Hmm.
to each other and said, honey, we got the most sophisticated advisor in the entire
Hmm.
state of Montana.
Hmm.
And his closing line was, this was the best $100 in marketing
Hmm.
I've ever spent.
Right.
And it gets down to all the other things. I mean, we work with Freddie Steakburger and Custard.
Hmm.
It's a small chain of wonderful steak burgers and custard
Hmm.
in the Midwest. And they asked us to come in and see how could we improve business and
Hmm.
other. So I did an audit of 5 of their stores, and I just said, well,
Hmm.
here's what needs to happen. We need to create an elevated experience in these stores.
Hmm.
The way people are greeted, the uniformity of the of
Hmm.
the people that work there. I said you need to tear out about half of the
Hmm.
booths and put in movable chairs and tables.
Hmm.
And they're like, what? I said, yeah, we
Hmm.
need to tear up. I said, because I sat there on a Tuesday night and a Wednesday night and a Saturday morning, and I watched the baseball team come in and the Little League come in and the prayer group come in, and they're in booths and they're trying to talk to each other.
Right. And yeah. Hmm.
Right, but if you could rip out and put in
Hmm.
movable tables, and we could have the church
Hmm.
group over here, the Boy Scouts over
Hmm.
here, the girls. Anyway, they did that. They just
Hmm.
won the National Restaurant Award for the best fast casual in
Hmm.
the United States, highest repeat
Hmm.
business of any chain
Right.
in the
Hmm.
business.
Hmm.
So, and NFL, we
Hmm.
worked with the Minnesota Vikings when they
Hmm.
put their stadium up, and
Hmm.
Kevin Warner, was the CEO, called me and said, will you do an audit for me? So we walked
Hmm.
through, and I said, well, first thing, we need 2,500 more TVs. 2,500,
Hmm.
because there's too many blind spots. Even
Hmm.
if they're in the stadium and people are ordering in line, they're
Hmm.
outside,
They want to be able to see. Hmm.
see the game. I said, do you have it up in the men's room, the ladies' room, in the
Yeah.
hallway?
More bathrooms. More bathrooms.
And then I said, in your executive suites where you're trying to sell them and they're a high
Mhm.
price and you're struggling, I said, the thing that struck me is, number one, you don't have enough TVs in there. And number
Mhm.
two, you don't have any charging cords. He said, what do you mean?
Ah.
The charging cords.
Mhm.
I come in there and I want to charge up my phone or my device. Why don't we have charging cords? I'm
Mhm.
paying thousands of dollars. Wouldn't it be great if you did that?
Mhm.
And I said, the other problem you got all these different security entrances, a multi-entrance. I
Mhm.
said, the
Mhm.
problem is that people are going to back up there because the kids don't want to go through the security.
Mhm.
Because he said, right, they hate it. I said, so
Mhm.
why don't we change it? You must pass through here to be a certified Viking fan.
Ah.
When you go through, they'll put a sticker on the kid and said, you're certified. So
Mhm.
then he calls me 2 weeks later. He said, well, that's a problem. I said, why is that? He said, because the kids want to go through twice and get
Yeah,
through.
I want more stickers. Mhm.
So it's all these, it's like the parking spots we couldn't sell. So
Mhm.
what do? We widen them by 50% and double
Mhm.
the price and sell them in 6
Mhm.
weeks. So again, it's thinking about who
Mhm.
wants to drive a luxury car and get your door dinged. You
Right.
don't.
Mhm.
So all of I mean, these all probably seem like minutia to people. I'll give you one other. I have a
Mhm.
friend of mine, a great guy, and when you go to most places, you pull up and says, "Customer parking only. All others will be towed."
And you're like, ah.
Right. You know what his sign say? Customer parking other. Customer parking only. All others will soon become customers.
Yep.
Booming
Mhm.
business. It's been
Mhm.
featured in the newspaper,
Mhm.
on the news, et cetera,
Right.
as a different way of communicating with
Why
people
do you want to scare your customer away before they ever get in there?
as a nice way to say you're at the right place with the right
Right.
firm. And
Right.
their business is booming.
Mhm. Right. And again, these are little things,
Yeah.
and a lot of it can be, you just sit and you watch, and then one of the other things, and I always tell people this, ask the people who sit at your front desk,
Yeah.
what do they see? And because they've got their finger on the pulse. They hear people complaining, they hear people saying, hey, this was great. all of those things that nobody's ever going to tell anybody else. And listen to them and just see, if they're saying, I had to park too far away, I about got killed coming across the street. It took me forever to get through the voicemail system. All of those things, what can you do to fix those?
That's exactly right. And one of the things that we encourage people to do is ask your best customers at least once a year. What are 3 things we can do to improve our relationship with you, or to elevate your experience with us, or whatever the case might be? And the problem is a lot of companies get sucked up into this customer satisfaction survey. But what they don't realize is when I'm speaking about customer satisfaction, if I'm filling out something about the experience I had, I'm focusing on a past situation. In other words, satisfaction is what's in the past. What we need to be as leaders of companies is focused on how we can improve in the future. So we've done a lot of work on this with major universities and companies, Salesforce and others. What we found out was that about conservatively 20 to 30% of people that are your customers, whoever you are on this listening to this, are loyalty neutral. In other words, they may be satisfied, but they're not delighted. And given a different situation,
they'll switch.
They'll switch. And of course, we see that in some industries. And it's not just disruptive technology. It's just that somebody is a little kinder, more thoughtful, more caring, and more empathetic, and they end up getting the business. So these satisfaction scores, and I just had a CEO reach out to me the other day. I mean, he said, Richard, we had the best satisfaction scores in history last November. I mean, they were the highest in history. Clients, our customers said they were so satisfied. He said, but we just got the year-end report and we've lost 13,000 customers last year.
Whoa.
And he said, what do you think happened? I said, well, very simple. Number one, we rest on our laurels. Number two, back at how we did I said, did you ask the question when you did the satisfaction polling? What are 3 things we can do to improve our relationship or your experience with us? Oh, why would I ask that? I said, well, there's your answer. That's why. When he said to me, why should I ask that? I'm saying, there's the answer to the problem. You want to rely on that which it is you've done in the past. The consumer's expectations are changing all the time.
And they know this is what would make it better.
Exactly right. I have a fellow in Wayne, Pennsylvania, runs an insurance company agency. And I had him start asking his clients that. And they said, well, we hate coming out here in the winter because the roads get bad, et cetera. So he said, yeah, I had several of my widows tell me that. I said, well, who else are your clients? He said, well, I got CEOs, but they're good. I said, have you asked them? He said, no, they're good. They're CEOs,
we don't hear from them, therefore they're good.
Range Rovers, so they're good. Said, why don't you ask them? I think the number one thing was, hey, coming out here in the winter when the snow. So he said, what do I do? I said, what I would do is I would contract with a car service, not Uber, but a car service that would 4-wheel drive and pick up every single one of your clients and bring them in. He did. Let's just say his business spike was almost 30%.
Right. Well, because not only were they happy, they told other people.
Thank you.
Guess what?
There's nothing better than having advocates on the street marching on your path.
Yeah, that good old word of mouth.
Oh, yeah. Well, social media has helped that a lot. That's what I wrote about so much in the book, is with 100 proven ways to acquire and keep clients for life. I'd ask people, how did this become prominent in your mind as a way to elevate the experience? And they would say, well, my friend Dorothy told me, or Bob told me.
Or a total stranger said something on Facebook, and I believe them more than anybody else.
Bingo. So therein lies the dilemma, I think, that every business owner, every salesperson has, is good service is no longer good enough. It's a minimum expectation. If you're carrying a business card that says, I'm in the whatever business, for the most part, people take, how should we say, ability for granted. They believe if you've got a card, they have some expertise in this area. Where people struggle with is, where am I going to have the best experience? Who's going to treat me right? How am I going to feel like I'm in the right place with the right provider? I was asked the other day on a radio show in Boston, WBC. I did an hour-long Q&A. People called in. And this one young lady called in and said, what do you think is going on with the consumer? Everybody seems to be, in a different place. I'm
Mhm.
really struggling with this, that, and the other. And I said, well, what's really going on is we went through the Great Resignation,
Mhm.
that label, but now
Mhm.
we're going through the Great Reevaluation.
Right. The
People
what
would say,
do we want?
right. Are we in the right place with the
Mhm.
right provider, the right hairdresser, the right doctor, the right plumber,
Mhm.
the right car? So that's what people are doing now. We're in an election year. We're seeing it too. Am I in the right place? They're going through a great
Mhm.
reevaluation.
Mhm.
So what does this really mean to us as business owners and professionals? It means regardless of where we are in the world. I mean, I have clients all over the world,
Mhm.
Mumbai, India, England. I'm
Yeah,
going to
the
be
thought process is the same.
same. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
speaking in all throughout France in October. The reality is people everywhere are like, look, I have X I can spend.
Mhm.
I want maximum return on my investment. And
Mhm.
what is that return? It is the experience they have. That's
Right.
why I always call it the 4 E's.
Mhm.
If you really elevate the experience, you end up with emotional engagement.
Ah.
And when you have that,
Mhm.
that really builds a rock solid
Mhm.
relationships. And relationships is what drives revenue.
Right. Right. Yeah, because as you said, we're not truly brand loyal. You
Oh,
know, laundry soap is laundry soap is laundry soap. Now there are those that will use Tide or whatever, no matter what. But yeah, I'm like, whatever. But if which is why Costco does so well, because they've got those people there saying, would you like a sample? Would you, all of those various things. And it's really hard once you've gone, ooh, this is really good, to not at least take their coupon, right? But and there's 15 other things on the shelf that are exactly the same, but they gave you a little bit more.
well, they demonstrate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people look for. Everybody says, well, I'm very thoughtful, kind of caring, and
Mm-hmm.
empathetic. So what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk down to him. Does this make sense? Are you with me?
Oh yeah, that's you
Listen,
you act like I'm stupid and I'm not going to spend my money with
I know
you.
I'm really smart, and I'm not sure you can keep up. So are you
Mm-hmm.
with me there,
Mm-hmm.
Deb?
Mm-hmm.
Am I over your head here?
Yeah.
Help me
Do
understand.
I need to explain it again? I've had
Yeah,
that
yeah.
happen.
What part of this
Mm-hmm.
is confusing to you there, Deb?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hear all these phrases sometimes on these
Mm-hmm.
other calls. You just go, who talks like this?
I know.
Unfortunately. But the difference is, and the Costco learned this, that if you demonstrate, now just talk us straight. You don't say, hey, this is a really good cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Demonstrate that cheese, people buy the cheese.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's the same thing in business. If
Mm-hmm.
you demonstrate, don't just talk us straight. May I
Mm-hmm.
give you an example?
Yes.
In Sarasota, Florida, I have a home there, and near the police station, almost adjacent to it, is a donut shop called 50 Donuts.
I love it.
And their tagline is arrestingly good donuts.
Mm-hmm.
And they are remarkable. I mean, when you get a jelly donut, it's really a little bowl of
Gooey.
no
Mm-hmm.
of dough. It's a very thin and a
Mm-hmm.
bowl of jelly. You bite into it, it's just you jellied. So anyway, and they open at 5:30 in the morning. And if you're not there by 8, they're
They're
complete.
gone. Mm-hmm.
All right. But here's the important thing. I bought my first donut there August 4th, 2019. Now I'm not a donut guy, but I bought
Mm-hmm.
my they had opened. I wanted to go check them out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do I know that August 4th, 2019 was the first day that I bought a donut?
I don't know.
Every August 4th, I get a text from them. Now catch this. 50 Donuts. Congratulations, squad member, for another year of being on the force with us.
I love it.
Your next donut.
Mm-hmm.
We now have 7 locations on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a young gal, struggling single mom,
Mm-hmm.
came up with the idea, let's have a great donut.
Mm-hmm.
But what she really came up with is a way to cultivate a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with her customer.
Yep. Oh yeah, because the next time you're going out of your way
Absolutely.
to go there.
I had friends who were in Sarasota for a meeting. They were like, we need to order donuts for the
And you
meeting.
said, have I got the place for
Go to
you?
50 Donuts.
Mhm.
They ordered 4 dozen.
Mhm.
I mean, it's incredible.
Mhm.
Now, what's the point? The point is, I buy a life insurance policy. I never hear from the guy again. I
Mhm.
buy a home, and they decide I'll probably never buy another one in my lifetime. I
Mhm.
buy a car, same thing. I bought a car from a guy in Atlanta many years ago, and I ended up buying 6 different cars from him over the
Mhm.
years after I moved out of state and moved to
Mhm.
Florida, because he always stayed in touch. Congratulations on the successful years, one of
Mhm.
my owners.
Mhm.
And he didn't just send birthday cards, but he sent he wouldn't send holiday cards. He'd send Thanksgiving cards. So
Mhm.
full.
It stood out. Mhm.
thankful to have you as a customer. You can go online and look at the professional days. There's professional every day as a professional firefighter day, teacher day, doctor day, registered nurse day, and you can send all of your customers a happy, whatever day. All you got to ask them, by the way, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a teacher. Okay, make it in the file, you put it in your date. Here's what people need to do. Take your customer relationship, that's CRM. You do a lot of work with Salesforce, and I drive them nuts with this point. They said, we need to rebrand this whole damn thing and just call it instead of a CRM, customer relationship management, we need to call it a customer experience management system. Because if you figure out what they do for a living, recreation, special interest, and what they're
you put in it's sales 101.
Well, you build such a relationship with people, going anywhere.
Right. And all of those programs have that capability to put in there. Their dog's name is Fifi and it's a poodle. All of those things. And what we want as the customer is, I want to think I am your only customer and I am the most important. And so if you remember my dog's name, you're going to get bonus points. Now it gets confusing because I have 4 dogs and 2 cats, but if you at least try, I'm going to be happy. But yeah, simple things. People like to talk about their kids, their pets, their spouse, and some of this you can get, like say on a Zoom call, you might be able to look behind them and see pictures. We aren't in people's offices as much anymore, but where you could see, the pictures and things like that. But And it's okay to ask questions. Hey, is that a picture of your daughter playing soccer? Then you're thinking, daughter plays soccer, right?
Well, no, you're exactly right. I did a call with a CEO. We've been trying to get together for a couple of years. And on the back of his credenza, he had North Texas. So I said, you went to North Texas? I said, no, where they do the claw. Of course, I had looked them up before I even made the call, so I knew they went to Texas, and the claw was what they do.
Yep.
Like, Georgia Tech, they do one thing, and it is. So, and he said, yeah, we do the claw. He said, no, move that thumb up, Richard. Get it. He said, hold on a minute. He said, Holly, come in here. He said, my wife was a head cheerleader. Honey, come in here and show him how to do the claw. This is Richard. And she's on Zoom. We're doing the claw. She said, perfect, Richard. Keep it right there. Let's go. Let's screen share that so we can frame it. And then she said, here's Bob. And he came back on. He said, what were we talking about? I said, we're talking about a branding project. Even going back. He said, well, forget all that crap. Let's just set a Zoom up. We're going to have to work together here.
Yeah, it's done. It's done. Well, and, it's one of those things where, especially now, it's kind of easy to cyber stalk people, right? Now we don't want to be creepy stalky, but, like one time I had a meeting with somebody. This was when I lived in Denver. And on his LinkedIn profile, he actually had that he was a Colorado Rockies fan, right? So the baseball team. And I thought, okay, it's on his LinkedIn profile, so that's pretty public. So when I met with him, I had a mug, a Colorado Rockies mug, and some chocolate. And then, now we didn't get the deal, but if we got the deal, he would have got some baseball tickets. But just little things like that. And I tell people, alumni especially, I went to University of Colorado and to Colorado State. And so, we like to dish on everybody else. But I was, again, another LinkedIn conversation with somebody, and he was an Oklahoma State person, and now we're going back into the Big 12, but, and so he started by saying, I don't know about you buffs. And so we, of course, laughed about that and then proceeded to trash the other schools. Right. But it gave us that little bonding thing, exactly what you were saying. And it is so easy. I am friends with my clients on Facebook if they want. I leave it up to them. And I tell them I am never going to post anything that, somebody is ever going to object to. So no politics, no religion, no anything like that. Now I might post about the Olympics right now, but that's okay. And of course I'm going to post about my Colorado Buffs, but I'm fine with them knowing the little bit that I put out there so that they can know a little bit more. And then I know about them. One of my clients trains in her free time service dogs. I think that's the coolest thing in the world. And it gives us a little bit of something to talk about.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I think I'd summarize that point by saying friend-raising precedes fundraising.
Right.
You build that relationship with a gal in Missouri. She read my book, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. And she referenced one that I think was Tactic 57. But in any case, she said, well, I read that. And then one of my clients called, they were supposed to come in and sign paperwork, but they couldn't because their dog was injured and was in a cast. She said, so I went to Petland and, or Petco, and I bought a tin of dog biscuits and a get well card and took it over to the house. They not only signed the agreement, but their son called about 4 days later, who's a neurosurgeon in the West Coast, and said, I'm part of a practice of 5 neurosurgeons. We have about a $22 million retirement fund. We're really unhappy with our advisor. Would you be willing to take a look at it? Because it's clear that you care about people.
Right.
You know,
and it took her 10 minutes to do that.
You can't make this stuff up. When you demonstrate kindness, thoughtfulness, caring, and empathy, people, I mean, it's kind of, why is Chick-fil-A successful? Yeah, it's a decent chicken sandwich, but I mean, come on. It's because of the way they demonstrate. Why is it some little hole-in-the-wall restaurant you can't get in for weeks? Why? It's because there's a new restaurant in Miami Beach. I was there on the 4th night they were open. You now can't get in for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Because the way they just take, the food's good. In fact, the food's great, but that's not the point.
Your family when you're there.
Yeah, and here's what the general manager, I said, how do you make this thing run? You're 4 days in here. This thing's running like a watch. You know, you're seating 400 people. He said, oh, simple. He said, we take care of the staff. And the staff takes care of the clients, and then the clients take care of the bills.
Right. And I love that his first priority is his staff.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the happy wife, happy life thing. If you know, right? If your staff is happy, then they're going to treat the clients, the customers, the whatever you call them, they're going to treat them well. You know, and part of that is empowering them, you know, back to Chick-fil-A. You know, you can order anything. I mean, I've done this on purpose just to see. I will go in and I'll say, I want 1 chicken nugget. And they will sell me 1 chicken nugget. It's like a quarter or something like that. But yeah, I mean, you know, the customer is always right. Now, you don't want to get taken advantage of, but, you know, but then it comes back to exactly what you were saying before. Put yourself in the customer's shoes. How do you want to be treated?
Look at things from their point of view. That's exactly right. Thank you.
Right. Well, yeah. Oh my gosh, the time has just flown. We've only got about 5 minutes left. You know, obviously your book has so many great tips. And like we said, little tips, easy to implement, simple things that are just so basic that really make a difference. And the funny thing is, a lot of them, when I was reading it, I was thinking, people won't notice when you do it, but they notice when you don't.
Yeah, exactly. And it subconsciously builds a bond with them. And, you know, the book been out just a short time. I got an email from Amazon. They're selling about 4,200 copies every 14 days. But it's number 1 in marketing, number 1 in consumer behavior. And I just noticed this morning, number 1 in customer relations. But it's not about being number 1. What it really is about, that people on this broadcast, and they're listening. The people that are, the reason it's doing well is because certain people, including those that are on your platform here, they want to get better. They want to know. And this isn't what Richard Weylman thinks. This is interviewing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and asking them the question, what does it take to earn your business? And what is important to keep your business? And that's, I think, one of the reasons the book, you know, my last 2 books have done very well. They've both been international bestsellers. But I think this particular book really gives the business owner and the sales professional, marketing service professional, the ability to really maximize the lifetime value of the client relationship. Right. And MTV is what it's all about. So thanks for having me.
Right. Well, and as we said, keeping a client, keeping them is so much better than starting over and over and over.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, it's 6 to 7 times more expensive to get one than to keep one.
Right.
Problem now is about, well, be careful. I'd say it's closer. I'll say it's 1 out of 4. It's closer to almost 1 out of 3 in the middle. We're in the middle of a project right now, and it's almost 1 out of 3 people leave or won't finish a transaction if they feel like they had a bad experience, just one bad experience.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it can be something little that you may not even notice, you know, something as little as the door slams shut in somebody's face.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Richard, If people are saying, oh my gosh, we want to work with you, how do they find you and what are the services that you provide?
Oh, well, thank you. So they can go to my website, Richard, and then the last name is Weylman.com. Weylman.com. You can go there, and then we obviously I do a great deal of speaking all over the world. The books, you can go there and download a free chapter one of the book if you want. It's up to you. Also, all our consulting services. We do a lot of consulting in all. People say, you're in all these different industries. From, you do consulting work for we do work for Barbara Corcoran. She had one of her teams that she wanted to get better in her real estate business. They were number 97. So we coached and consulted with them for a year, and they finished number 5 in her
Nice.
organization. So she's pretty happy about that. She sent me a note. You always make the best better. So we do a lot of consulting. There's a whole page there, case studies. You can look at it, see if you can. There's a coaching page that gives you some additional. I've also just recently uploaded, I'll be conservative, but I guess around 25 or maybe even 30 little video 2-minute snippets that I've done that people can use in sales meetings. They're free. I'm not, eat that. Just go, but you could show them at a sales meeting to have a topic to speak about.
Okay, great.
And it just brings here's this, here's how you solve it, and this is why it's important. And I get lots and lots and lots of emails from people about, wow, we showed that little 2-minute clip or a minute and 30-second clip, and everybody had something they wanted to say that we could do, implement it. So Richard, Weylman.com. And if you, are interested in having me speak at a conference, or regardless of the size, as I said, I've done small groups from 4 or 5 people I did the Pepsi Center just recently. It was 40,000 people. So size is not important to me. What's most important is we help your people elevate their business performance. So
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, and of course your books, which we will link to in the show notes.
Thank you.
Well, this really has been so much fun, and it's such a great conversation. But do you have anything that you want to, some final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
I would simply say this: people are desperate. People are absolutely desperate to do business with somebody that cares about them, that's thoughtful, that's kind and empathetic. It's not because I said that. We see it everywhere in everything they do, every decision they make now. People are sick and tired of being taken for granted. They're sick and tired of being treated like a transaction. They want to have a relationship with the individual. It doesn't matter what you do for a living or what process or program or procedures you sell. It's like Ring doorbell. Everybody laughed when they first came out. The sharks all said, that's a joke, way too much money. But this guy was brilliant. He focused on what? The relationship people have with their family and to protect them. And then he built a relationship with those decision makers and built $1 billion business. So the point is simply this, that people are desperate. And if you will elevate their experience by personalizing and humanizing, you'll build emotional engagement. I think maybe the summary point of all of this conversation is what people told us is that if you'll build that kind of a relationship with me and really elevate the experience, we're going to have a rock solid relationship. And no amount of marketing dollars is going to dislodge me from doing business with you, because I know I'm in the right place with the right person for the right reason. That's pretty important. As my good friend Patricia Fripp says, she said, when closing a sale is not the end of something, it's really the beginning of something. And that's a great point. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having so much fun talking with Richard Weylman. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.